Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Tuesday, November 29th, and I'm Ryan Aselta. The fifth edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings are due out tonight. We're going to talk about those rankings and this weekend's conference championship games in just a bit. Plus, Dolphins sack master Cameron Wake joins us. But we start with the man who captured the attention of the sports world this summer at the Olympic Games in Rio. To say Usain Bolt is an international superstar would be an understatement. Bolt is a 9-time Olympic gold medal winner. He's a finalist for the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year award and put his life on film in a new documentary, I Am Bolt. Earlier, Usain Bolt joined me from London, courtesy of Toyota. Let's go places. Usain, you live so much of your life in the public eye. We see in the film that you're so famous, oftentimes you can't even leave your hotel room without just sneaking out in the middle of the night. How would you describe being Usain Bolt, international superstar?
I'm gonna describe myself. I think I'm pretty laid back and chill. I understand that at the start of my career, if you get famous, you will have less privacy, but I'm fine with that. I deal with it. But I'm a really chill person. I always stay in much, so it doesn't really bother me that much anyway.
I guess if you want to fly under the radar or travel incognito, one of the worst things you can do is be followed by cameras. What was it like having these camera crews following you and documenting your every move?
For me, it was good. It was all right because we kind of got to know each other, and then we found out that we both were really chill persons, and we loved to banter. So after the first 2 months, it got really easy because then we kind of knew each other, and then it just became just like we were friends and just random people. So it was really easy.
After watching the film, what will people be surprised to find out about you?
That I sing in my spare time, and I really can't sing. So I think that's something that's really embarrassing for me, but I think that will surprise people to actually do that.
Now, in the movie, your agent, Ricky Sims, says part of your popularity comes from your authenticity and that you're the same in front of 2 people as you are in front of 2 million. What has it been over the years that's kept you so grounded?
Oh, my parents. Just the thought of my parents. I know my parents will not be happy if I change my ways or if I got too cocky, or, you know what I mean? Because they have always grown me to be humble and to be respectful and just to be a chill person. So I think my parents, just the thought of my parents being disappointed in me, that really keeps me grounded.
Before Rio, you seemed to really struggle with loneliness and the need for self-motivation that comes with having no equals. How would you describe what appears in the film to be some burnout?
It's never a burnout. I think if you ask any person that have dominated over the years, you get, I would say, not really bored, but the lack of confidence because you have done it so many times. It's hard. It's not a burnout. It's just hard for you to motivate yourself to go out there every day because it's not easy to train and to push yourself. But I've always found ways and means of motivation. So for me, that's the key thing, is finding ways and means to motivate yourself to get to your goals.
Now, you found renewed motivation after watching a video of Justin Gatlin saying he was going to win the gold medal and parade it across the United States. How did this fuel or renew your desire to run in Rio?
I think one thing, I live for competition. I live to compete. So for somebody saying they're going to beat me, my competitive edge gets going, you know what I mean? So I think that's what jump-started my motivation to get back and say, oh, here we go, you know what I mean? And then my team came along and reminded me of the work that we have done short years to get to this point and what we're working on this year. So I think he started it, but my team really came together at the end and really helped me to remind me what we really are working towards.
Was racing in Rio the most pressure you've ever put on yourself over the course of your career?
No, I think Rio, I was in better shape. But the World Championships before Rio in 2015 was one of the toughest ones for me because it took me a while to get over my injuries. And when I got to Beijing at the time, I wasn't fully confident or thought I was fully ready to compete. You know what I mean? But my coach was in my corner. He reminds me that I'm a champion, and he helped me to see and to remind myself of who I am, the champion that I am.
Now, everyone in the film seems to think that you couldn't wait to be done racing so you can just have fun and do what you want when you want to do it. What were you thinking about when you finished that final race?
For me, I was happy. I was relieved that it was finally over. But I know that I'm never going to be able for the next 2-3 years to just do what I want to do, because I think I have a lot more work to do in the sports and just overall in life. So, but I was just happy to be done, because it's a strain mentally, physically on your body. So I was just happy to have accomplished my goals that I set out to 10, 12 years ago.
Thanks to Usain. The documentary I Am Bolt is in theaters nationwide right now and will be available on DVD on December 6th. And now to college football, where conference championship weekend kicks off in just a couple of days. Here now to break down some of the biggest games of the weekend is Fox Sports college football analyst Stuart Mandel. And Stuart, 8 conference championship games this weekend. Let's start in the Big Ten, where Penn State takes on Wisconsin. If the Nittany Lions win this game, how can the committee keep them out of the college football playoff?
Well, they might not be able to, but I think that the issue here is people think it's going to come down to Ohio State and Penn State. Obviously, Penn State beat them. Ohio State, to me, is safely in. Their resume is just so much better than the teams playing in the Big Ten title game, which I think you need to focus more on. If Penn State wins this game, can they edge out the Pac-12 champion, especially Washington? The Penn State situation is they've been as hot as any team in the country over the second half of the season, but the committee does look at your whole season, and they lost by 39 to Michigan, and they lost to Pitt early in the season. We'll see if the committee is willing to overlook those factors and put Penn State in, because they're the Big Ten champ, and most people believe Big Ten was the best conference this year.
You mentioned the Pac-12. Let's talk about this Washington team, another team knocking on the door of the playoff. Huskies take on Colorado in the conference title game. Now, Washington is the favorite here, but is there a circumstance or situation where Colorado can sneak into a playoff spot with a win over Washington?
It's hard to envision that scenario. Not that Colorado isn't a good team, but one issue they run into is that one of the other contenders above them, I believe will still be above them in the rankings tonight, is Michigan. And Michigan beat them 45-28 in Ann Arbor. So if Colorado beats Washington, obviously they move ahead of Washington. And because they're a Pac-12 champ, they'd be on that short list. I just don't see how the committee would justify moving them ahead of Michigan, much less the Big Ten champ, who presumably would be ahead of Michigan as well.
Now, how about Washington, a team that'll likely be in the top 4 when the new playoff rankings are released? The only blemish on their schedule is that loss to USC. Is this a team that's really a national title contender?
Yeah, they're a great team. I don't think there's any question about it. And if they get into the playoff, obviously Alabama is everybody's overwhelming favorite, but I would give Washington as much of a shot as the other teams that make it. Washington's issue in terms of just getting into the playoff, they just don't have those high-end wins that some of the other teams do. As of today, the highest-ranked team they've beaten in the AP poll is number 17, Stanford. They'll add a top 10 win if they beat Colorado, just not as many impressive wins as some of the other teams in contention.
You mentioned Alabama, the number 1 team in the nation. How important will it be to avoid Alabama for these teams in the semifinals?
Very important. And it's interesting because in the past, we didn't think the seedings in a 4-team playoff would matter that much. But I don't think you want to be the team that plays Alabama when Nick Saban has had more than 3 weeks to prepare for the game. Now, if you get them in the championship game, perhaps they're beaten up from the semifinal game. There's not as big a turnaround. That affects both teams. We saw that last season. Alabama crushed Michigan State in the semifinal. Clemson gave them all they could handle in the final. So I do think the issue of who's number 3 and who's number 4 will be a lot more important this year.
Now in the ACC, Clemson's going to take on Virginia Tech. Does a win for the Tigers leapfrog them ahead of Ohio State, ensuring that they get that 2 spot and they avoid the Tide?
Well, if we believe that Ohio State is going to be number 2 going into Saturday, I think Clemson with another win with a conference championship, which Ohio State won't have, could move up to number 2. But number 2 and number 3, all that really matters there is what color jersey you're wearing. You just don't want to be number 4, and I think Clemson would be safely ahead of whoever's going to get that 4th spot if Clemson wins the ACC championship.
All right, going to be an exciting weekend in college football. Conference championship weekend is upon us. Stuart Mandel, thanks so much for being with us. All right, now to the NFL, where outside of the Dallas Cowboys, the hottest team in the league may reside in South Beach. The Dolphins have reeled off 6 straight wins and now find themselves in the thick of a very crowded playoff race in the AFC. Our next guest has been the driving force behind the Dolphins defense that has Miami sitting at 7-4 on the season. Defensive end Cameron Wake joins us courtesy of the Old Spice High School Initiative. And Cameron, the Dolphins started this year off at 1-4. All of a sudden, 6 wins in a row for you guys. What's been the biggest difference for your team after those first 5 games?
And I think it's been playing together, and when I say playing together, I mean playing complementary football, with offense playing with the defense and vice versa. The first few games, it maybe wasn't all the way there, but now, where defense get on the field, get off the field, give the ball back to the offense, they go down and put points up on the board, and we just repeat the process. So, believing in one another, they know that we're going to get off the field and give them the ball. We know they're going to put points up. And we play the whole game. I think it'll be tough to beat us.
And you guys as a team have clearly improved as the season's progressed. How about first-year coach Adam Gase? How has he grown into his job since the start of the season?
Well, I think he's the perfect man for the job. A guy who's very passionate about winning. Obviously, that's his number one priority. And also a guy who's going to make a tough call. He's going to pull the trigger when it's maybe not so popular. He made some changes and moved some things around. But, again, a guy who's focused on winning. So not necessarily trying to make friends or do what's popular, but do what's going to help the team win. And so said, it's been pointing in the right direction. We just got to keep it going.
How about you personally? You have 8.5 sacks on the season, but 7.5 of those have come during this win streak. What's clicked for you during this stretch?
Well, start of the season, we had big plans for the way my role was going to be. Probably be more of a situational guy, pass rush, pass rush specialist. But things didn't necessarily pan out that way. So made a change, and I got some more playing time. Got to put back in the starting lineup, and my role obviously changed. So I'm on the field more. And just doing whatever I can to help the team win. For me personally, that's the biggest goal. I've never been a guy that cared about stats or whether I'm starting or not. I just want to be able to contribute and get to a place where this team is on the top. And, we're doing everything we can to make that happen.
All right, how about the schedule here? 5 games left. You take on the Ravens this weekend, and then you have the division-leading Patriots team waiting as your final game of the season. Now, New England beat you guys by just a touchdown earlier this year. How confident are you guys as a team that you can get some revenge against the Patriots?
Well, I'll be very honest. Patriots aren't in my radar at all. I'm thinking about this week and playing the Ravens, and that's been the process that we've continued to work with. Don't look down the road. You got to look at this next step. And, we've been focusing more on us. I don't care about, what other teams are doing or, what they, have going on. It's about what we're going to do. Are you going to make sure you're in the place where you're supposed to be? Are you going to be ready for Sunday? How does your body feel? Focus on yourself. And if you are, at the tip top of whatever your issue is or whatever your shape is, then whatever your opponent has to face you on Sunday is not going to be an issue. So, again, I'm not thinking about any other team, rather than the team we're playing now. And when it comes to them, we got to focus on our jobs and make sure that we are going to be right. I think that way we'll make sure we win.
How about those Ravens, a team that sits atop their division? Big game overall when you talk about the playoff picture in the AFC. What type of challenges do they pose, guys like Joe Flacco and company, against your type of defense?
Well, obviously starting off with him, good quarterback, obviously a guy who's been around, great arm and can get the ball to guys who can make plays. And obviously a guy like me on the front, the main goal is going to be to do whatever I can to make his job tough on Sunday, and I got a lot of guys that are going to be working with me to make sure that gets done, from front to back. And I think, again, we just continue to trust in our process. The last few weeks, it's been working out for us. So going out there, playing hard, playing aggressive, and hoping that they, play into our hands and make sure that, we get another win for the good guys.
All right, it's no secret down there in South Florida. If the season ended today, the Dolphins would be in the playoffs. Now, you've been in Miami your entire career. Team has never had a winning record during your tenure. What would it mean for you to get to the playoffs this season? It would be the first time since 2008.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. Obviously, year in, year out, you come out, you have good teams, you have, a lot of potential, but, you just kind of being just out of touch with, getting into the postseason. So, again, my whole goal, as I spoke about earlier, has been just getting in a situation where you're, in a winning fashion. We want winning to be, not an exception, be the rule, be the norm. The Dolphins franchise, when you think about it, as a franchise has always been on the top, and, you got to make sure you get it back there. But, again, I'm not looking too far ahead. I'm, again, just working on this 1 week and make sure that every guy from, top to bottom knows their role and can do it to the best of their ability on Sunday. And if you're ready, then I think when you look in the mirror Sunday night, whatever the outcome is, you'll be pleased.
Now, aside from sacking quarterbacks this season, you're also doing some great work with high school kids this year. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm actually partnered up with Old Spice. Obviously, here I'm being in a partnership with them I know you guys have seen the commercials, and, being a guy in football in the locker room, it's a pretty smelly place. It's got a lot of dirt and grit and grime, but being able to partner with these guys and the products and being able to use them, being able to go out to high schools, not smelling like I came from the locker room, being able to smell fresh. They're the hardest working collection with the hardest working guys in football, and just being able to give back to the community. Being a guy who's been down here for so long, being a part of the community is a big part of something that I, personally is means a lot to me. And, for being a partner with a company like Old Spice and give back to the community at the same time is a win-win for everybody.
Great stuff. Cameron Wake, thanks for joining us. Good luck on Sunday against the Ravens, and good work in the Old Spice High School Initiative. That's going to do it for this Tuesday episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, when I'll be joined by former NFL All-Pro running back and college football national champion Warrick Dunn. Until then, stick with SI.com, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great afternoon.